Welcome to the Gut Show. I'm Erin Judge, registered dietitian and founder of Gutivate, and I will be your host. My goal on this side of the internet is to empower those with IBS and digestive disorders to understand their guts better, to have a healthier relationship with their bodies, and make confident choices to improve their digestive health. During this season of the Gut Show, you can expect a weekly conversation covering a hot topic related to health, digestion, and IBS. As a disclaimer, I am a dietitian, but I'm not your personal dietitian. Everything we cover in this episode is meant to be educational and not a substitute for personalized care from your healthcare team. Before we dive into today's episode, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Are you looking to add more prebiotic fiber into your diet? If so, Sun Fiber can help. With one scoop, you can add 5 to 7 grams of soluble, non-fermentable, and prebiotic fiber into your day. This will help you feed your beneficial gut bacteria, help keep your bowels regular, and support your overall health. Talk with your trusted healthcare provider to see if this is the right fit for you. And then you can find your favorite Sunfiber containing products at sunfiber.com. You can also save 20% off your order with code GUT20. Now let's get into today's episode. Have you noticed that the more healthy you eat, the worse your gut actually feels? Or maybe in the past, you've tried shifting your diet towards a healthier diet full of a variety of plants and vegetables, more whole foods, and you found that your IBS got so much worse and you weren't able to continue. If either of those scenarios are you, or maybe even you're wanting to increase your diet, but you're afraid of what may happen, today's episode is for you. In this episode, I'll cover a little bit more about why this happens, what the bigger pitfalls are when trying to eat healthier and causing more symptoms, and how to avoid these so that you can implement a more well-rounded, nutrient-rich diet in your life in a way that will support your body and not make your symptoms worse. Before we get into why symptoms can happen with a healthy diet, I do want to define what healthy actually means. You may notice the way I'm saying it, right? Healthier with these quotations and, all these things around it, because healthy eating really does look different for everyone. And when we're thinking about a healthy diet, there's no one size fits all healthy diet. Your healthy diet is what helps you meet your body's nutritional needs and health needs from a physical standpoint, but also can help with mental and emotional well-being and social well-being as well. So health goes far beyond just physical well-being, which is where diet can get a little bit more complex. Also, we all have unique needs in terms of our nutrition. So you may need more of something than someone else. You may have more restrictions in place based on your health condition or what may be going on in your body. And so what feels best for you and what supports you most may be very different than what supports someone else. So remember that what others deem as healthy may not work for you. And that is okay, because ideally we want you to be eating a diet that you're confident in, that really works for you, not a diet that looks like, what you see on TikTok. So if you feel shamed or embarrassed or whatever it may be by the media and what you see out there, and what other people are communicating is healthy, then let it go. That doesn't mean that that's exactly what you need. Now, when we are kind of loosely defining what a healthy diet is, we're looking for nutrient-rich foods and nutrient diversity. So meeting nutrient needs is key. This is typically going to be done by eating a variety of foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains and legumes, nuts and seeds, fish or other protein sources, including both animal and plant proteins. When we incorporate a variety and an adequate amount of these foods, we will usually be able to meet nutrient needs really well. Then we may need to bring extra focus on certain foods for specific nutrients for each person. And then ideally, we are focusing on whole foods as much as possible. This doesn't mean we have to be super strict with it, where nothing out of a bag, can come into your diet, or nothing fun and enjoyable can come in. That's not true. But ultra-processed foods have been shown to have negative health outcomes. This is typically going to be, when we say ultra-processed, foods that are not just minimally processed. Minimally processed would be like a granola bar or even some cereals where the grain is kind of mixed and pressed differently. We even consider, cutting things, freezing things that's considered technically processed. But some foods are minimally processed where they still use whole ingredients, but they're not necessarily utilizing a large amount of artificial ingredients, versus ultra processed foods will incorporate a combination of artificial ingredients to make the food something. So an example could be like candy, as an example, some candies that maybe have a lot of other additives to them to make them look a certain way, snack cakes, some fast food kind of fits into that category. And that's where you're going to get larger amounts of like trans fats and different ingredients that could potentially be harmful to health when consumed in large amounts over a large period of time. This doesn't mean that eating them once or every now and then is going to be the downfall, right? What you do most of the time is what matters. So we want to bring our focus on what we're incorporating while allowing flexibility. And again, that flexibility will look so different for each person, which is what you will get more personalized from your healthcare providers. So again, no shame. Ideally, no fear or like over restriction here. We want to make this practical, applicable, and sustainable over time. Again, considering physical, mental, and social well-being as part of your health. So whenever you're incorporating these foods and you're moving towards a healthier diet and you're really trying to improve your diet quality, why do symptoms tend to get worse? The first reason is that you've increased more fiber very quickly. So you can find fiber in your plant foods, including your fruits, your vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. A lot of times, healthy eating looks like incorporating a lot of these foods, especially a lot of fruits and vegetables, maybe even whole grains like quinoa or brown rice and things like that. That has fiber. Fiber is the non-digestible part of carbohydrates that typically makes up the structure of the plant, and incorporating other parts of those plants. But those fibers are not going to be absorbed by the body. Instead, they'll slowly be broken down a little bit, and then they'll be put into the colon where they feed your gut microbes in order to give you beneficial byproducts like short chain fatty acids, and they can also add bulk to your stool. So you see them in your poop. They help with that brown color of your poop, help with the form of it, and sometimes you'll even see some of that structure like tomato peels in your poop. Very normal to see because it's not broken down. So you still get some benefits from the fiber in your body, but you're going to see it kind of come out because the fibers themselves are not going to be fully digested and absorbed. Fiber also helps control blood sugar levels because it binds to the other parts of those carbohydrates and can slow the breakdown of the carbohydrates into glucose, which goes into the bloodstream and is part of that glucose insulin balance that we see with metabolic health, and even those with type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, PCOS, where we see insulin resistance. Blood sugar stability is a really big focus. So oftentimes we're adding more fiber to help with that. Fiber can also help reduce cholesterol levels. So part of a heart healthy diet, we're going to see more fiber intake. Fiber is incredible. Fiber also needs time to be adapted to. So like I mentioned, fiber is fermented by your gut microbes. Whenever your microbes ferment the fiber, they produce those beneficial byproducts and they produce gas. And if you do not have an adequate amount of those beneficial gut microbes that are there to break down those specific fibers, you may get way more gas and discomfort. If your gut microbes just haven't had that fiber in a while, you may get a lot more gas. And if your gut motility is off, so let's say you're more constipated and you have slow motility, that gas that's being produced is going to build up in your colon and be uncomfortable. And so your gut may not be used to it. Your gut also may not be ready for it that quickly. Another reason why you might not be digesting fiber well, especially more insoluble fibers like what you see in cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli and cabbage, or even in some of your whole grains, is because you may have inflammation or damage in your colon or in your small intestine, and that's going to lead to irritation because those fibers again are not broken down. They're providing a little bit of roughage, and so they may be kind of scratching and creating too much roughage in your intestines that may lead to more symptoms. This is a bit more rare. This isn't something that every person is going to experience. Those first two common pitfalls of your gut not being ready for it and your motility being really slow. Those are what we see more frequently. But if you do have some inflammation or damage due to, let's say, celiac disease or IBD or diverticulitis, or maybe you have had IBSD for a while and you've been in a flared state, your gut might be a bit off. If you have SIBO, and recovering from that, if you had C. diff and you've been on antibiotics, those are all instances where there may be more irritation going on. And so we need to focus first on letting your gut calm down, bringing that inflammation down, allowing the gut lining to heal a bit more, and then increasing your fiber to avoid that irritation, which is something that we assess for whenever we are working with patients and clients, to make sure that we know exactly what our plan is and we're not just avoiding fiber completely. And I'll talk about how to digest fiber a bit more when we get to the action step and how to make this all work for you. Another reason why a healthy diet sometimes feels worse is that you're increasing plant foods, and plant foods have some complexities to them, even beyond fiber that we just talked about. So more fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes are great. So many nutrients are there, but often when you're increasing these, you may start with raw options, and that's switching to big salads. Whenever you have raw fruits, vegetables, grains, you're not going to see as much, but even nuts and seeds, they are going to be much harder to break down. Think about the structure of raw broccoli versus cooked broccoli. Cooked broccoli is going to be a little softer. You probably can tear it really easily, right? Raw broccoli is going to be very hard. That's what's going through your body. The softer those fibers are, the more chopped they are, the more broken down they are, the easier they're going to be to kind of break down and move through your body. The more whole they are and the more hard, if you will, they are, the harder they're going to be to break down. So if you're eating a really large salad, that's already going to be hard to break down. And then what 90% of people are not doing, from my experience and practice, no official stat, they're not chewing enough. So if you're not chewing that raw salad, you may have struggles starting in the stomach to the small intestine and to the large intestine, breaking down those foods. So you may think, oh, salads cause me so much gas, or they make me so bloated, or they make me so uncomfortable. And the reality is, if you really just chewed more, they actually may work really well. So that's a big pitfall people fall into. Another part of plant foods that gets a little tricky are cruciferous vegetables, which I mentioned a little bit with fiber, but cruciferous vegetables are even harder to break down and they are more gas causing. Examples are kale, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, Brussels sprouts, these foods that have a lot of structure to them versus the difference would be a carrot, right? Where it's a little bit kind of softer. It's like almost the inner part of the plant, if that makes sense, compared to like a cauliflower, which it really is more structure overall. For these, if they're raw, again, they're going to be even harder, but also eating large amounts of these, which often people do, they add, replace all rice with cauliflower rice and cauliflower products and add a lot of broccoli on top, maybe incorporate a ton of kale because they heard, dark leafy greens are beneficial, and then that leads to more symptoms. And the third complexity with plant foods are FODMAPs. FODMAPs are fermentable carbohydrates. They are more gas causing, and they are known to be some of the top triggers for irritable bowel syndrome. FODMAPs are primarily found in only carbohydrates, so they're found in lactose and dairy products, but then different plant foods. And so adding more plants to your diet may also come with adding more FODMAPs. And if you have IBS or you have chronic digestive issues, you may be more sensitive to some of these foods, and now you're adding more of them and it's causing more symptoms. That's where we're going to see more bloating, more pain, especially diarrhea, sometimes constipation with these foods. And it's something that, again, a trained specialist is going to be able to help with, but also if you're navigating that on your own, you may be able to evaluate your diet and see that these are present. So in addition to your fibers in your plant foods, another thing that happens when you're eating a more healthy diet or when people are moving towards a healthier lifestyle is they may add more powders and supplements into their diet as well. So these non-food options that help add nutrition, which could be protein powders, collagen, greens powders, supplements we might be adding, things like a multivitamin, or ginger supplements, anything like that that you may be incorporating. These are often thought of as benign because they're not necessarily food, right? We sometimes think of them as completely harmless and that they're probably going to be tolerated well, especially if you're following like an influencer or someone who told you that they work really well and they're using them every day and they work really well, but they're not talking about the symptoms they may be having. Those can often come with ingredients that are very difficult to digest. And that includes things like FODMAPs, artificial sweeteners. Also, they are more processed, and for some people, that's going to cause either constipation or diarrhea because they're maybe harder to break down, or they might cause more irritation and go through the body more quickly. So there are a lot of things that can happen with powders and supplements that you may not be aware of. Often it's what's added to them that makes it even more difficult to digest, especially greens powders and protein powders, which are really common in the marketplace and available to you. So that may be something to assess, is looking at what all you added, not just the food, but what else is coming in. The same would be true of drinks, like carbonated drinks, these sodas now that are like alternative sodas that are out there that have like health ingredients, like the prebiotic sodas, which have way too much fiber and a gas-causing fiber added to them. Really big things to watch out for. And then another reason why kind of switching to a healthier lifestyle may be working against you, kind of on those same lines, but having too much protein. This is something that I don't think it's talked about as often as like FODMAPs and plants and fiber, but protein is not always going to be absorbed and broken down in your body. What I mean is that there is an upper limit at a time that your body can actually handle and absorb in the small intestine. And then if it's not absorbed in the small intestine, just like carbohydrate malabsorption, that extra protein can make its way to the colon, can be fermented by microbes, and then hydrogen sulfide can be produced. Hydrogen sulfide gas is very toxic to the gut environment and can cause a lot of symptoms, including diarrhea, but also bloating and pain. And so if you are switching to a very high protein diet, and again, that upper limit's different for everybody, it's thought to be, above like 35, 40 grams, and that range is where we might start seeing these issues. So if you're going to, let's say, a 40 to 50 gram protein breakfast, you may be having symptoms because of that protein intake. And I see this a lot with a lot of recipes that are going on online, especially looking at, again, metabolism. Higher protein diet has been shown to support metabolism. It's often used for weight loss, even for muscle building for athletes and people who are working on like athletic performance. If you're increasing your protein to these really, really, really high levels all at a time and in a short window of time, you may be experiencing more symptoms due to that. Now for a short break to hear a word from our sponsor. We all know by now that fiber is essential for gut health. But for many people, increasing fiber-rich foods can lead to more discomfort, more bloating, more gas, and overall frustration. Or the increase in fiber intake becomes difficult to sustain every single day, especially when it comes to travel and changes in routines. Today's sponsor, Sunfiber, can help. Sunfiber is a prebiotic fiber supplement that is gut-friendly as a soluble, low FODMAP option. Since it mixes into water or food without adding any color, texture, or flavor, that means that you can easily add this into your routine to support your gut without the symptoms. I personally love how easy it is for me to take Sunfiber with me when I travel, so I can stay consistent with my fiber intake and keep my gut moving. I also feel confident feeding beneficial microbes when I incorporate Sunfiber into my daily routine. So whether you use Sunfiber daily to support your gut microbiome or as needed to keep your fiber intake consistent, this may be a great option that your gut will love. Talk with your trusted healthcare provider to see if this is the right fit for you, and then find your favorite Sunfiber containing products at sunfiber.com. You can also use the code GUT20 to save 20% off your order. And then a few non-food specific reasons why kind of healthier eating, healthier lifestyle changes may cause you more symptoms is that maybe you're also exercising more, and your exercise could be contributing to how you feel. Just like fiber, your gut and your body need time to adjust to exercise. So if you are exercising, every single day, as tense as you can, like really pushing yourself hard, from nothing, like you didn't slowly build that up, that alone may cause your gut to be off. Also, if you're choosing really high intensity exercise like HIIT workouts, circuit training, CrossFit, Orange Theory, these types of workout classes where you are pushing your heart rate to the max and you're really pushing yourself, that can cause stress on the body. And for a lot of people, that can trigger symptoms, including diarrhea. Over time, that extra stress building up can cause constipation and slow your motility down. It especially can cause more cramping and bloating that you may then think is related to food, but could have been related to that exercise class you did in the morning. What also happens when someone's adding more exercise is often they get up early to exercise before work and their sleep suffers. So they actually cut off their sleep time, meaning they're getting less sleep and less quality of sleep because they're waking up earlier. And that can lead to poor digestion as well, poor gut microbiome makeup, and more stress on the body in addition to the exercise itself, which can spiral pretty quickly if you are building and stacking all those habits up together. And then some other habits that you may be incorporating that are part of the maybe recommendations that you were given that you thought were healthy for you, but could actually be working against your gut include long periods of fasting. Eating in short windows of time may work for some people, but when it comes to digestive disorders, IBS, and even digestion symptoms, that doesn't always work well. Fasting can cause your motility to be really off, your microbiome to be off, and your gut to be off. And then if you're eating in a short window of time and eating a large amount of food, then that's a lot on your gut at once, and it may not be able to digest and break those foods down as well as it could outside of that short window, like spreading things out, which may cause you more bloating and gas production and pain. Restricting and binging cycles. So if you're really restricting yourself, so we see this a lot with people who are going towards like the clean eating or the Whole30 or these kind of really restrict rules. If that doesn't work for you and you find that you're restricting during the day, then binging at night, or restricting during the week and binging on the weekend, those like cycles work against you more than just finding flexibility day to day. That's a huge pitfall I see people fall into, and their gut just is constantly off because those binging cycles cause more symptoms. They finally get to where the symptoms have settled, and then it's back to the binging cycle, and then the symptoms are back. And so it can be a really vicious cycle to be in. And then along with that restriction or the changes that you're making, if you are stressed over your foods and now you have increased fear around your foods and you're hyper fixated on your foods, there is this such thing as the gut-brain connection. We talked about it in last week's episode where we talked about gut-brain therapies. So go back to that episode if you missed it. But it is very real. And if you have IBS especially, and you have an altered gut-brain connection, more stress, even if it's stress about good things, like you're really trying to incorporate good behaviors and healthy habits, that can still cause symptoms for you and maybe again working against you. So the benefit you would be getting from those actions and that restriction you're trying to implement, it may not actually outweigh the risks and the negative that you're seeing from the stress itself. So these are all reasons why adding healthier foods and eating in a healthier way might actually be working against your gut and not feel good in your body. So instead of just pushing through, there are actually things that you can do to make this work for you so that you can build on healthy behaviors. And these are great tips thinking about going into the new year if you have some New Year's goals around this, but also just to start implementing today. And if you already are in a place where you have implemented all of these foods, like you've changed your diet and you're really trying to work hard on this, there may be some slight modifications you can make to what you're doing now without having to go backwards with the tips that I'm going to share. So filter this through what you're doing, what you need, and what you've experienced in the past so that you know how to best move forward. The first thing is to go slow with your fiber increase. When you're adding more fiber, it's so tempting to just go full on in 1 week, but go slow. Maybe add one fiber source, meaning one serving of vegetables, one serving of whole grains, make one swap, adding in a serving of fruit for like one serving every few days at a time, maybe even a week at a time if you've been very sensitive, so that you can slowly build up your tolerance to that fiber amount. When you are adding fiber, especially through plants, cook them down as much as you can. So soups, soups and stews, that's going to be way easier for you to digest, and focus on chewing as much as you can. You want to bring your food to applesauce consistency for the best digestion of it. So really focus on chewing, and cooking is going to help you chew less because you're already breaking it down through cooking. To increase your tolerance to fiber, you could utilize a fiber supplement. Sun fiber is a great option, which has been one of our great gut show sponsors. That's one I really like partially hydrolyzed guar gum. There's also psyllium fiber. These are both really easy to digest fiber supplements that are more isolated versus complex like food. And so you could add a supplement in to then increase your tolerance, and then start adding more foods as your gut gets used to the fiber itself. With exercise, just like fiber, increase it slowly and really tune in with your body. If you find that you are pushing yourself to the limit and you're not feeling good and your gut is responding, feel it out, right? How does it feel to set some boundaries around that and bring maybe that intensity down a little bit, or try out different forms of movement to see what feels best in your body? Take breaks, breathe. You always have autonomy in your body. And if you're at a workout class where they don't give you your own autonomy, or they shame you or guilt you for doing things the way that you need to, that is not a place that you want to be. I can tell you that right away. Like, that's not going to be a safe place for you. Find a place that feels safe, where you can feel really confident in how you're moving your body, and don't push yourself to the max, right? Build it up slowly. Not only is that going to help your gut, but as a personal trainer, that's also going to help prevent injury, which will help you be, again, more consistent and sustainable over an entire year and many, many years to come. With adding more exercise and all these routines that you may be focusing on, don't neglect your sleep. Your sleep is going to be that core factor of your digestion, your mental health, your energy levels. All of the things that we want working well really do hinge on your sleep. You could be exercising and eating healthy every day and doing all the right things, but if your sleep sucks, it is going to work against you. That is something that always needs to be one of the top priorities. And 7 to 9 hours per night with a fairly consistent schedule is key. So make sure you're prioritizing your sleep. With your meal times, and again, thinking about routines as a whole, eat regular balanced meals, maybe every 3 to 4 hours, versus very long periods of fasting. This doesn't mean you have to eat 5 meals a day. It doesn't even mean you have to eat 3 meals a day. Like, you can decide what that breakdown actually looks like, but we do want to create some space in between, and you'll have some space overnight for your body to really go through that digestive process versus squeezing everything through a short period of time. That is likely going to be much better on your health overall. That will also help you spread out your fibers and spread out your protein so that you can better digest those foods, right? It can be so beneficial over really long periods of fasting. If you are building in fasting for other reasons, maybe look at cyclical fasting versus daily fasting, as that might be more beneficial. Again, that's something you have to personalize with your team, like your healthcare team that you trust, to figure out what works best for you. And then with your diet, with your routines, with everything that you're implementing, find joy and relaxation as well. You cannot out diet stress. You cannot outweigh it, right? You have to make sure you're implementing joy, relaxation, and nervous system regulation into your life. And this is especially important with meals. If you're going into a meal stressed, you're likely not going to digest that meal very well, because your body's not in a digestion state, right? It's in a stressed state, and that's going to lead to more gas, poor digestive function, more symptoms that may lead you to think about, oh, I need to treat this, or I need to, add more supplements, or I need to change my diet, restrict more foods. But truly, what you may need is more joy and relaxation in your life to kind of help calm things down. We're actually doing a joy challenge in our Master Method membership in December. If you're listening to this kind of live as it's being posted, but December 2023, we're doing a joy challenge, because with the chaotic holiday season, with all the holiday meals and all of the changes that are coming up, it's so important to focus on moments of joy as part of stress management. Stress management isn't always just meditation or breath work. Sometimes it really is just having fun and finding joy in the moment. And maybe that's with your food. Maybe it's not with food if food is not joyful at the moment because of your symptoms. But there's a lot of power in that can actually improve your symptoms and even tolerance to foods significantly, which is what we'll be focusing on in the membership in December. If you're interested in joining us, you can find that information in the show notes. We would love to have you in the membership. Also, throughout the membership, we do have a core program for IBS and additional trainings that are all there to help you improve your symptoms, build up your diet in a really healthy way. We actually go beyond what I just talked about and into what the actual pieces of a healthy diet look like when it comes to digestive health and health outcomes overall, and how to get there. So if you're looking for more guidance on that from a place that maybe you can trust, but also you connect with, if you connect with me, then the membership will be a good place for you. So keep that in mind. But as we're going through the rest of this year, or wherever you are when you're listening to this, I hope that these tips that I covered today are helpful so that you can really push into those healthy behaviors that you're looking for and keep them going in your life in a way that really does work well for you. And know, again, I can't say it enough, healthy will look different for you than it looks for other people, and that is okay. Find some confidence in that, knowing that what your body's communicating and how you're working with your body will lead you in the right direction, as long as we're taking in all information, right? Symptoms don't always mean something is bad or isn't going to work for you. It just may mean, okay, maybe we need to approach this a different way, which the tips I covered will help with to get started. So hope that that was helpful. We are almost done with this season of the Gut Show. I can't believe it. It feels like we just started. But next week we are going to talk more about bile. So we're going to switch it up a little bit and go niche into bile. And then we have one more episode after that about building resilience for IBD and IBS with one of our guest experts. So I hope that you enjoy the rest of the season, and I hope to see you back next week in the new episode. Do you want to keep learning from me in bite-sized pieces, as well as even be able to ask me questions and get those answered? If that is true, then you should follow me on social media so that you can learn from myself, but also my incredible team. You can find us on Instagram at erinjudge.rd or at Gutivate. You can also find us at TikTok, same name. And then you can also find us, if you're not already on YouTube for longer and shorter videos than the one that you listened to today. And if you're someone who really does enjoy compiled information from different brands we trust and different recipes that we enjoy, then you can also follow us on Pinterest, where you can see our own boards, but also the boards that we have been able to compile other great IBS friendly links and resources for you.